Hello guys, welcome to the channel and welcome to our Peter Cushing week. So we are going to look at some of the classic Peter Cushing films this week, and we're starting off with one of his best, The Revenge of Frankenstein. Now this is a Hammer film, which I believe was out in 1958, stars Peter Cushing as Dr. Victor Stein, Francis Matthews as Dr. Hans Cleves. We have the creature, or Carl, his name is played by Michael Gwynn. We have the love interest, Margaret, played by Eunice Gayson. And we have Lionel Jeffries and Michael Ripper in this film, with a cast of loads of other sort of famous English actors. Now this film starts straight after the original Frankenstein film of Hammer. I think here it's called Frankenstein, but then it was called The Curse of Frankenstein elsewhere. In that one, we had Christopher Lee as the monster. This one's a lot different. It begins with, because at the end of the first one, Dr. Frankenstein, Baron Frankenstein has been put to death by guillotine, and it starts off from there where we see him going towards the guillotine to be beheaded. But there's the two people that are his friends, if you like, and they're there to help him. Played by Oscar Quittak, I believe his name is, and he's there. And in fact, the priest that's there, sort of like giving him his last rites, they actually behead the priest and put him in the coffin and bury him in Frankenstein's grave. And then we see Lionel Jeffries and Michael Ripper with a fantastic part of the film. They're both absolutely drunk in the pub, and Lionel Jeffries is trying to convince Michael Ripper to come and rob this grave for him, of this body that's gone in there. Because they believe it to be Baron Frankenstein, and they'll get a lot of money for it. And Michael Ripper doesn't have nothing to do with it, and he doesn't want nothing to do until Lionel's like, oh well, I'll do it myself then, and and I'll pocket all the money and all this sort of stuff. And then he persuades him, and off they toodle pop to the graveyard. And it's a funny scene there too as well, because Michael Ripper's doing all the work and Lionel Jeffries is sitting on the gravestone eating a sandwich. It's just like, it's absolute comedy gold. It's absolutely priceless. And they dig up the coffin, and they see it says written on there Baron Frankenstein, and Michael Ripper goes, oh, I've never seen a Baron before. So they take the top off and they see a headless priest, and Michael Ripper legs it. But then Lionel Jeffries starts thinking about, oh, well, actually it still be money, what's wrong with a priest's body? And then we see, good evening, I am Victor Frankenstein, and this shocks Lionel Jeffrey, and he collapses into the grave and dies. And then we see that Doctor, who's now called himself Dr. Stein, has moved. He moves to a different part of the country and sets up a practice in a hospital. Now the local committee of doctors are sort of flabbergasted by him, because he's just arrived in the area. They don't know who he is. They think he's Dr. Stein, and he's set up business, and it's been successful because he's helping a lot of sort of poor people and stuff like this. And he's turned a new leaf, and he's now performing proper doctor practices. And they go and visit him at his hospital, and they see that he's doing well with all these sort of people, helping them with their illnesses and things like this. And they want him to join their committee, but he doesn't want to. He says, I'm successful on my own. I've got a good business. I don't need the help. So off they goes. And amongst these doctors is Dr. Hans Cleve, which is played by Francis Matthews. It's been in a number of Hammer films. Anyway, he seems impressed by Dr. Stein, and we we see Dr. Stein go to his sort of like back rooms of his sort of like his surgery, washing his hands and starting to cut a chicken up for his dinner. And in that room is Dr. Cleves, Hans. And he then surprises Victor and sort of like has a conversation with him and says, I know who you are, because you look just like him and stuff like that. And he finds out that it is Victor Frankenstein and he wants to work with him. He wants his knowledge. He wants to is it been impressed by his work. So we thought this doctor was going to, sort of like dob him in, but he wants to work with him. And then Victor agrees to him working with him on his, laboratory. So then we go to his laboratory and we see that Victor is still up to his old tricks. There was one of these patients in his hospital who's got a bad arm, he's got a tattoo on his arm there. And he says, well, it needs to come off, and he cuts his arm off. And we see that he's got the arm down in his laboratory. And we also see his assistant, Carl, who has volunteered his brain because he demonstrates and shows Hans all the stuff he's been doing with reactions and with eyes and brains, and then shows him he's got a new body there, but this time it looks very human. It doesn't look like a monster, and he needs a brain to sort of like make this come to life and function. And Hans first of all thinks it's him and goes, no, it's not you. I've already got a volunteer, and it's Carl, his servant sort of thing. And Carl gives up and sacrifices his life because he's disabled. He's got this sort of like crippling abilities with his hands and legs, and he's got like a face is dropped on one side. So he's quite happy because he's got a good brain to be in this new body. And that's where it starts to go right, but of course it goes incredibly wrong. And I won't tell you how it goes wrong and what happens. You need to watch it and find out. It's an absolute classic Hammer film. It's on par with the original Hammer Frankenstein film. I mean, rare do you get films like that, And this is just as good. It's fantastic. I mean, Peter Cushing in this film, his screen presence just screams at you of his wonderful ability to be so calm and patient and so British, and it's amazing to watch. And he's got this real presence on the screen. If you know Peter Cushing, he's got a very jaunt sort of face and look, very distinctive, and he uses that to his ability and to his skill. And he's absolutely fantastic. The way he talks to people, the way he's sarcastic to certain people in the film, and stuff like that. It's just fantastic. It's really, really cool. And then Margaret comes along, who's our love sort of interest, and she sort of tries to help Carl, our monster, after he's turned into this monster because he looks normal. He sees himself in the mirror and likes the way he looks and everything. And all this sort of thing. Things terribly go wrong, as always. And it's such a wonderful, wonderful performance by the whole cast. Francis Matthews is fantastic as his assistant in this film. He's so good. And Carl as the monster, he's really excellent. He's so sort of convincing. And Michael Gwen's a good actor. He's been in a number of films. And he plays the role so well. He's although it's his own body, he's sort of playing it like he's in a different body, and he plays it so well. It's so cool. And all the committee members are so sort of typical British grumpy doctors that would be on a committee, and so believable. And it's just so cool. And we've got I can't remember his name. I'm sure is it John Welsh. I think he was in what other film was he in? He was in another Hammer film, and he played like a vagrant, and they tormented him, and stuff like that. But he was in this film as like a janitor at the hospital, and he's also very, very cool in this film, and he's sort of like um you don't like him. He's just a nasty bit of work, and he's the one that unravels this film, and it's such a shame because you're just thinking, yes, Dr. Stein has done a good job, and it's just like, yeah, well done, but then it all falls to bits. Incredible film. Revenge of Frankenstein, I'm going to score this an essential watch and give it a 10 out of 10. It's up there with the original Frankenstein, which I also give a 10 out of 10. They're both brilliant. Now, this edition from Indicator is absolutely lavish with special features. It's so cool and really, really good. I don't know if they released a collector's edition of this. I really don't know, but it's a great film, and it's normally reasonably priced. I picked this up for about a tenner, and it's an amazing film. It's really cool, and Michael Ripper and Lionel Jeffries pretty much still the first part of the film were there. It reminded me of uh, Dudley Moore and Peter Cook a little bit when they were in the pubs and they do their characters, and they're like sort of drunk, and it was a little bit like that sort of humour. And I just thought, wow, what an amazing sort of way to start the film with a little bit of humour, but then it takes a dark turn, and it's absolutely wonderful. And that is the first film of my Peter Cushing week. So if you want to know what the next one is, tune into that one, and we will talk about that one then. But until then, check out some more horror channels. Check out Horror Hands, Horror Geek, Man v Film, RS Design, Pizzawell. I'm Ice Little Cat Watches Horror Movies, Grumpy Andrews, Haunted House, and The Maniac. And a massive shout out to my lad. Till next time, look after yourselves, look after one another, and I really hope I see you all soon.